Hello, good morning, everyone. How are we doing today? So I want to welcome you back to the first session. The first session was actually an introductory session, but this is the class proper, the School of Apprenticeship. I would have called it the School of Business Apprenticeship, but we'll just find a name that suits what we're doing now. And I would expect feedback from every one of us, you know, a name that represents where we are now. We started as a School of Apprenticeship, but it has been modified, you know. So basically, like I said the last time, what we're doing here is to um, educate and raise leaders that will lead in these different spheres. You know, so here is the number one topic. The topic today, I will title it "The Mentality Required to Succeed." You know, discovering yourself. That is what I will title it. So guys, many years ago, many years ago, this was in the early 90s. I was born in the city of Aba. So somehow, somewhere, nobody really educated me. Nobody really told me this, but I just believe that people that occupied the different status of society were simply there as a result of fate. That means it was not a product of their efforts. It was not a product of them doing anything. It was just the way God designed it. Just God designed it for you to be here. And I was running with that mentality for a very long time. A very long time. That's just what I believed. Okay, fine. Back in the day, I used to have one of the very rich guys in our street. Then I didn't come from a poor family anyway. But these guys had a higher financial status than my parents. So, and he used to go around the street with the walkie-talkie. Back in the day, walkie-talkie was a status symbol. If you had it, then you were a big man. So that was what the idea had. Man, like, this man is big. This man is. He was the major importer of silver polish, and there's this polish, this liquid polish thing. And when he started, when he became a thing, he was the major guys that brought it into Nigeria. And the neutral polish, the black polish, the brown polish. So I had really believed that intelligent people are intelligent because they were born intelligent. Smart people are smart because they were born smart. I didn't believe so that your effort really mattered. I didn't believe that your effort didn't matter. Maybe because I saw a lot of people that put in effort, and it didn't really yield so much. And I saw a lot of people that put less effort and it yielded so much. So that affected my perception of life up until I think when I got into secondary school or so. So that was the way I thought. The implication of that is that anywhere I had assumed I think, okay, then in school I was number three. I won an award, as the third position best graduating student in English language. Up to today, I don't believe I was the best graduating student in English language. Number three. I think we're first, second, third. Yes. I still don't believe it somewhere. Not because I was bad, not because I didn't do well, but somehow my mentality didn't fit that award. I didn't even believe that I was a very rough guy in school, like the rough guys in school. You're looking for the guys that cause problems in school. I was in that category, So when I was called up for that award, it was strange. I'm like, okay, where did this come from? How did this happen? Are they trying to make everybody feel comfortable? That was how skeptical I was when I won that award. I was like, okay, so maybe they are doing this thing so that it will not look like maybe the parents, our parents, so that it doesn't look as if your children, none of your kids got anything, And I was so sure that I did not qualify. I was so sure that I did not qualify. This is not for people. People like us don't win awards anyway. That was the mindset but people like us are the ones that you get if you're looking for who to flog for causing a major chaos in school, for leading protests in school. I could remember the day I led one funny protest in school, and the punishment I got for it's just stuck somewhere in my head. So I didn't believe that people like myself had anything to do with academic excellence. And it's funny, it might sound funny to you now, But that was my thought process. That was my mentality. So when I get to pass, is kind of, I'm like, what is going on here? When I got into secondary school, I came second, and I think I came second in my class. So okay, the best graduating student, JSS1, was from my class. So, but I was the second position in my class, but not the third graduating student. I don't know if you understand. We had about 10 classes, just 1A to about K. So the first guy was the guy that overall best was in my class, and I was second position in class. Up till now, I still don't believe that I was the second position in class. I read, I studied, but I didn't think I did enough. Even the things I studied and I wrote, how I wrote my exams, I was waiting for somebody to validate what I already knew. Because of the mentality I was operating at that time. And the truth is that a lot of us are in this position. A lot of us have found ourselves I used to be like that, I think, up until late secondary school, and then when I entered the university. It was at that time that I realized that my opinion was actually correct. My viewpoint was not as wrong as I thought it was. I was waiting for people that I actually knew better than to validate my position. So this is a position that when I write it down, I get an A, and I'm shocked. How did I get an A? Maybe it's even got so bad that I had assumed at different points in time that it would be maybe there was a marking error. These were the kind of things I believed that made me score high in school. You know why? Because I was seen as the rough guy. I was the guy that people called rough. Crazy guy. The stubborn guy. You're looking for the guy that, if it's about who did they flog today, is most likely me. I'm not the guy that will pass an exam. So this was the kind of mentality I had, that I didn't if I finished reading a book, I needed somebody to agree with my position, agree with my understanding of that book before I really made sense. I really agree with myself that book makes sense. You see, what was going on with me is what is going on with a lot of us now in our finances, in our life generally, in our careers, in our businesses. My focus is not every aspect of your life. My focus is on your financial life. That is my focus. I'm not so much interested, not that I'm not interested, I'm not an expert in other areas of your life. But God has helped me in the area of finances. And that is the same thing I bring to every one of us. So, back to the conversation. You see, this mentality, as funny as it sounds, as little as we think it is what each and every one of us is dealing with today. Especially if you're not at the top level in your sphere, or you're not in the process and you don't see a consistent growth and development in that your sphere. This would likely be the problem. So I'm here to help you to discover yourself. I'm here to help you to discover yourself. That is what the purpose of this particular class is. This one, today's topic, would help you to discover yourself. First, let me start by saying, you're not small. You're not a victim of circumstances. You're not someone that will come to the table and leave the buffet and is expecting and hoping for crumbs. You're not a second-class citizen. The best things in life belongs to you. You see, this sentence, as little as you might see it as, is a very important sentence that I think you should put it on your walls, put it in your wallpaper, put it everywhere around you, that the best things in life belongs to me. You see, society have grounded us so much, culture has grounded us so much, that giants are walking on foot, while slaves are the one riding on horses. Where did this my mentality come from? I told you, from around my environment. People that knew me as a rough guy would always emphasize that I'm rough while others are studying. I was shocked one of the days that a guy that used to teach me English 101 when we were in school. By the time the results came out, I got an A, he got a C. And I'm like, I strongly believe that there was something wrong. But I didn't know I was actually good. But I had the wrong mentality. There were a couple of things that happened as a result of the constant emphasis people were making because of some childish excesses that I had growing up. So when you want to compare me, you're saying, can't you see this person? He's reading. You're always running under the rain. So I assumed that the person reading was smarter than I am. But then you go into the class, I realized that, man, I'm actually smarter than this person. This person is not smarter than me when it comes to English language or mathematics or chemistry or biology. But I had worked with these assumptions for many years. So when it was time for scholarships, to write exams and all, I just believed that scholarship no be for people like us. So if they say, oh, you need to pay 1,000 naira to apply for this scholarship, it's not for me. Where people that are wearing glasses are already there, because the assumption is that people that wear glasses are the smart people. They are the people that actually, very funny assumptions. But I wouldn't pick up scholarship forms for scholarships because it's not me. It can't be me. It obviously can't be me. This is exactly the same way I thought about finances. Some of us believe that 1 billion naira has no place in my life. 10 billion naira has no place in my life. The conversations about people living in the lacrime of society, being part of the people living, for example, if you're in Jos, living in Rayfield, you just somehow believe that it's not for you. Part of the people making the decisions that run a society, somewhere in your mind is not for you. Part of the people at the top of your sphere, you strongly believe that it's not for you. And you don't even know it. You have established and re-established and re-emphasized that thought process that even when the opportunities present themselves, you turn it down. By yourself, you self-sabotage. The opportunities show up every now and then. You say, no, it's not for me. It has to be for these people. So when people are called in a round table, you already go under the table because it's the crumbs that belongs to you. If you do not change the way you think, there is little or nothing God can do with you, despite all the things that He has deposited in your life. If nothing changes with your thinking, because you see, you can be converted, you can join the faith, but until your mind is thoroughly renewed, you cannot get the best of this life. It is not possible. And that is why if there is one thing you should avoid like plague, especially considering the upbringing that a lot of us had. Now, when I mean upbringing, sometimes it could be that your parents did a very good job, but the school system did a terrible job. The society and the environment around you did a terrible job. So a lot of people are still having this identity crisis, trying to discover themselves and be very much aware of the potentials that God has given them. And in most cases, what culture tries to do is to ground you. You know that there is something you can do. You know that there is a capacity you have that the world has not seen. But you're grounded by validation. You're grounded by people's opinion. You're waiting for people that will say, oh, you did a very good job. Or, oh, you did a very bad job. You see, in this word of validation, I want to give you an example from the Bible. There was this group of people. One could say that Jesus' company increased by about, was it about 70%? It was more than 50%. No, it's even more than 100%, maybe about 400% or 350% when the 70 joined. And Jesus said, He became very suspicious. And He asked them, what are you here for? You're here for the fish and for the bread. That's what you're here for. He explained to them, if you really want to follow me, you must eat of my flesh and drink of my blood. And guess what? They left. And Jesus turned to the 12 disciples and asked them, you too, won't you go? You see, if there's one thing about Jesus, he didn't seek for validation of men. Because you see, the problem with the validation of men is that I don't know how far it can take you. And sometimes men don't even understand. Now, am I saying you should go about being rebellious? No. But you see, for any new thing to emerge, it must challenge the old thing that exists. And a lot of times, the old does not understand the new. And so, in the bid to be safe and cautious, in the bid to ensure that what is working is not disrupted for bad, they tend to ground the people trying to come up with new ideas, and nothing gets to change. So sometimes in life, you might have to go alone, because Jesus was willing to go alone the time he asked the 12. He said, you too, are you going? Peter led the charge and said they were not going. A lot of times the crowd has followed Jesus and Jesus turned them back. Because you see, the thing about the crowd is that they are not really interested in the man. They are simply interested in what they are going to gain from the man. That is why I appreciate every one of you here. I learned this the hard way, not to be so much interested in the crowd. The problem with the crowd is that they get excited, they shout, whoa, what a word, what an inspiration. They are just excited and excited and excited and excited. But how many of them can actually follow the path to achieve through conversion and the true renewing of the mind? That is where the problem is. A lot of times they are not willing to go that path. So for us that always seek validation, you have an idea. The next thing, you're looking for who to validate that idea. When Jesus needed validation, he went to the Father. It was during his baptism that God declared that this is my beloved Son, in whom I'm well pleased. Listen to him. Now, am I saying that we should not run our ideas, our things? The Bible says, in the multitude of counsel there is safety. Yes, but it shouldn't be to the point that you're willing to sabotage God's purpose for your life. Because sometimes the old generation will know later. Sometimes it takes you actually, showing, displaying and exhibiting that thing that the Lord has deposited inside of you for the old generation to adjust. Every one of us here, there needs to be an overhaul of the way we think. Some of us mentally, when we come in the group, when people come together and say, oh, we're going to this 100-meter dash or a 400-meter or 4,000-meter marathon, somebody inside his head had already assumed that first position is not for me. It would have even been good enough if you say, okay, second position is for me. No, some persons believe that they are number 30, number 40, number 50. Like when it comes to the choicest aspect of life, you just remove yourself. You exonerate yourself. You click the minus sign. And some of us do it with different things, We quote it with different things. We just quote it. We just have a way of quoting it, quoting these things. But inside all the excuses that the person is giving and the reason that the person is giving for not seeking and pursuing the best of the best in life is fear of success, which I think is the biggest fear these days anyway, not even fear of failure, is the inability to handle success. So because of that, the person aborts and just chooses to just be an assistant. So guys, we need to break that thought process. We need to completely destroy that process. And let me give you some of the things that we always come up with when we want to self-sabotage. Number one, planning. I'm a big fan of planning, very big fan of planning. I believe that people should plan. I'm a big fan. Make sure you plan your life, all this and that is something I do very well. But you know what I realized? I realized that a lot of us actually use planning as an escape mechanism for not engaging. It's an escape mechanism for not kicking off. It's one of the strategies we use, to buy time so that people will no longer, maybe the people will talk to about that idea, or ourselves too. You just use it and fizzle out that idea, fizzle out that plan. That thing that you're supposed to be doing now, you use planning to fizzle it out. You use planning to make something that is easy to start cumbersome. Funny enough, funny as it sounds, yes, some of us have planned out that goal. We have planned out that individual. And when I mean planned out, I mean it in a negative way. We have planned it in such a way that, plan off anyways. We've planned it off. That thing that God has put in us that will impact society, a lot of us has planned it off. Number two is this thing called times and seasons. We'd always say, oh, there are times and seasons. Somebody that is pursuing 20 years, 22 years, he's talking about times and seasons. Some people are in their 30s talking about times and seasons. There is times and seasons. There are religious excuses that we always fall back. And I'm talking about this because we are Christians. There are religious excesses we fall back on. So one of the things that people like this would quote is the wilderness experience. I'm still in wilderness. I used to enjoy it. Then I used to call it wilder. It's something that we relished, being in wilder. But I had studied that part of scripture again. And you see, if we don't understand what God wanted to do and what God's original plan for the children of Israel was, we're going to wallow in this thing and joke. And the same way we were joking about it, some of us got stuck in that place that some of us have not come out of it up to today. And what is the issue? God's original intention was that the children of Israel will leave Cairo. That is Israeli capital. That is actually where they were oppressed. And get to Jerusalem in 40 days. That was God's original plan. And guess what? That 40 days is still the same time up to today that it will take you to move from Cairo to Jerusalem. Up to today, it will take you exactly the same 40 days. So God did not plan for them to wait and wallow in the wilderness. It was never in the plan. Today we're now saying, oh, 2 years, wilderness, 10 years, it's time, my season will come. God never ever planned it. Up to today is a 20 minutes flight from Cairo to Tel Aviv or to Jerusalem. Is a 20 minutes flight. So it's 20 minutes. It's a 20 minutes flight. And is it actually a 24, if you want to go to Sinai is not too far, but if you want to get to Cairo, it's almost a 24-hour drive. So ideally, God did not plan for people to be wasting their life in the wilderness. It was not a plan. It was the response of the children of Israelites that led to this soul wilderness experience that would have been. Their response, according to the Bible, is that they were stiff-necked people. Their mentality was wrong. So God could not take them to the promised land. When the journey started, God realized that the mentality of those people was wrong. Why God was hoping for them to get to a land that was filled with milk and honey, they were obsessed, still thinking about the garlic and the cucumber in Egypt. So it was not God that was the issue. It was not God. So If you really think that the reason why you've been stuck in life and you've not been able to make headway is because you're in wilderness, simply know that the problem is your mentality. Not God. It's not God taking you through any process. It's you. It is your mentality that is limiting you and keeping you where you are. It is your mentality that is keeping you where you are. It's not God. It's not God. It is your mentality. It is the way you think that is keeping you where you are. God was so frustrated by these people that he had to wipe every one of them out because the mentality required to live in the promised land was not there. He wiped everybody out except Joshua and Caleb. And the Bible explained why. Because they had a different thinking, a different mentality. Were they converted? Yes. Remember that when we talk about the New Testament reality, the way we talk about it, we will say leaving Egypt is actually leaving the world, leaving sin, what it represents in the Old Testament. So they actually came to the faith. They cut the covenant with God at Sinai. But guess what? They were not useful for God. God could not use them to carry out his project. So he wiped every one of them out. So while you're bragging, while you are feeling comfortable and so comfortable with life on the basis of times and seasons, be sure of what you're talking about. Be sure that you're not the reason why you've stayed in that season for as long as you've stayed there. Just be sure. Just be sure. And I tell you, I've checked the mean age of the people we're dealing with here. Nobody should be having that conversation. There is nobody that should not be at the top or on his way very fast to the top of whatever it is that is his or her endeavor in life. Not one person. You see, we're talking about leading people, setting up businesses around this area where there are gaps and all that. But you see, if you don't lead yourself, if you cannot emancipate yourself, if your mentality is wrong, you're not able to help people. If you have a wrong mentality, you will be dealing with low self-esteem. Your esteem will be terrible. And that is why you see people, they cannot use the word no. The word no is so heavy. And I understand it because I'm coming from there. In seeking for validation, you don't want to say no to it. You get to that point where you're literally saying yes to everything, and you can see that you're getting exhausted. You can see that you're passing out. And you know the truth. If you die, the world will continue. Newsflash. We will keep moving. We will bury you. Maximum 2 weeks. These days, okay, you are too great. You were there for everybody. 1 month. You're done. If culturally speaking, that it is required for us to come together, and do remembrance, simply because it's an opportunity for your family members to make money, eat, enjoy and all that, we'll do it. Because what I found out that this so-called remembrance thing that people do year after year is even business on its own, an opportunity for hangout and all that. So it's not necessarily that it is people mourning people. It might sound very good, but that is what it is. And these days I've decided not to be apologetic about certain things. And with things like this is also one of them. So if you don't have the right estimate of yourself and the capacity that is at work within you, you will become a tool for others to use and accomplish their goals without getting premium value for your time and energy. Low self-esteem makes you accept anything at any time, even at the expense of your life. I just said it now. It's exactly what it is. It just reduces your life. Once you see a man that has not discovered himself, he expresses that in family. You can't be yourself in your family. In business, very terrible decisions. You see the person. You can't turn things down. You can't prioritize. There is a research I am doing, and one of my conclusion is that pride is a reflection of low self-esteem. I know it might sound contradictory, but when I'm done, I'm going to do a little paper on it. So, in the environment has conditioned us to think that we are the periphery of life. The average person has an idea of how to produce something. Guess what? When you produce the thing, here's what we do. I have an idea of how to produce, let's say, a computer. Guess what we do? We take that idea and take it to Apple for Apple to validate. What do you expect Apple to do? The best they can do is employ you, steal your idea. Or they tell you that your idea is not worth it. 5 years after, you see your idea in MacBooks. Even the configuration of our institutions is also like this. I went to the university. I had 2 sets of lecturers, and I would always ask them, every time you're either teaching capitalism or socialism, which when you talk about socialism, you also talk about Marxism, communism. And I'm saying, is there no African system, a system that is unique to us, that we have developed that works? Why is it that we're always moving from either the west to the east or from the east to the west? Like, can't we have a life of our own? Don't you have a life? Is it that God just created us to be just the follow? Is there not something unique about us for us to give to the world? We'll think about an idea, we'll go to the west to validate it before we can proceed. Am I saying you should go about there being chaotic? No. But use the Chinese model. Use the Chinese model. And what is the Chinese model? The minimum you can do is believe in yourself. Even when people make mockery of what you're producing, just keep quiet. The United States today are putting all the trade tariffs on them. It's not working. Part of the reason is that that so-called Chinese thing that we thought was inconsequential has gone global. So now that they are rushing to put trade tariffs on, it's too late. They are everywhere. It's too late. I pray that every one of you here discover yourself. I pray that you discover your true self. Because you cannot give what you don't have. If you have not discovered yourself, you cannot help others discover themselves. A lot of things have grounded giants who are supposed to be playing at the war stage, playing at the highest level of their sphere, and they are just playing at the periphery. They're just playing at the periphery. So please and please, back to the time and season thing, which is one of the excuses that we give. I'm really going to talk about 2. The first one is planning. The second one is this one. I think that will be enough for today. The children of Israel stayed in a place that they were supposed to take a 40-day walk. They stayed in that place for 40 years. 40 good years. What was the issue? Mentality. Guess what? I don't think in human history there have been a people group that have witnessed the miracles of God like the children of Israel. In fact, that particular generation, let me how many of us have witnessed a sea dividing into 2 and people walk through it? How many of you have witnessed for 40 years, even for 2 weeks in your life, manna and quail dropping for you to eat? So it wasn't miracles. It wasn't miracles. You see, with all the miracles that they saw, these people saw a war. They were fighting a war where if you can raise the hand of the priest, you will start winning. Just what you need is raise the hand of the priest. Let his rod be up. You will start winning the battle. They witnessed every one of those things, but they had the wrong mentality. So you see that the state of the mind is very powerful and a thing of concern to God. Because God was trying to get them to the point where they moved to the promised lands and start taking responsibility for their life. But no, they wanted the comfort of Egypt. And I dare say there is a comfort of wilderness. Because when they got to very close to the promised land and went to spy the land, Joshua and Caleb had come back and said that they're able to take this land. The other 10 guys said, no, we're like grasshoppers in their sight. It was not just fear that was the issue. It's the comfort of the things that they've been enjoying in the wilderness. Like, gimme, help me, help me. You know, the NGO economy. And this is exactly why anywhere, any community I come in and I notice a lot of NGOs, I just start praying for that community, because it means that this community is like seed. Because when you see a lot of charity going on, it simply means that you have been convinced that you're less of yourselves, so you need help. Because one of the greatest business model in the 21st century is, if I can convince you that you're a victim, you've then become my commodity for me to make money. I need to first convince you that you're a victim. If I can achieve that, business has started. So when I see a lot of NGOs in a community, and if you can also look at the configuration of Nigeria, you have bulk of the NGOs in northern Nigeria. When you see NGOs everywhere, charity everywhere, just know that there is a problem in that society. People have been educated to see themselves as victims. Either they overemphasize certain challenges of society, or they even create victims by themselves. So that was part of what the issue of those other 10 spies were. What is it that you look like grasshopper in the eyes of? That's like a declaration of facts now. Why would God wipe out a people on that basis? The highest frustration God had was the way the people thought, the way they were thinking. So remember this. While you're claiming that you're in the wilderness, just know that you're the problem. That it is your mentality that is the issue. And God needs to fix your mentality before He can use you. If you don't have the right mentality, you can't get to the promised land. You will just be there, daily bread, living on miracles from hand to mouth. Every day you're giving a testimony of intervention. You'll just be living the life of somebody receiving interventions every now and then. But God is saying, no, there are higher dimensions to this thing. Yes, when you get to the promised land, you will till the ground. But unlike the manna and quail you've been eating for the past 40 years, you can now eat different variety of things beyond manna and quail. If you want mango, you can grow it. If you want grapes, you can grow it. If you want to keep cows, you can keep it. If you want dairy, anything you want, you can now have it. Rather than just living from the sky to the mouth. So you need to understand this. You need to understand this. This is the highest level of warfare ever. This is the highest level of warfare. If you win this, you've won. If you win this one, you've won. If you can win this battle, you're good to go. You're good to go. It is extremely important. You will see a young guy, young lady, 25 years, 22 years, somewhere in her mind, she's still a small girl. I really don't know where this thing crept in. She's a small girl. Small contention and small challenge in your marriage, you go and report. So 2 adults cannot sit down and have a conversation about their marriage. 2 adults cannot sit down and communicate. I understand the place of accountability is important. But really, who says that you must report your wife or wife must report husband, even if throughout their lifetime? Why can't two adults sit down? The level of immaturity I've seen in this age, it blows my mind. Now, can people have conversations and all that to try to know from people that are ahead of them? Of course, yes. But not the level of immaturity I've seen in the life of people these days. And sometimes they think that people that have achieved great heights in their own sphere of influence and have risen to the top, that there is something special about them. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you that there is nothing special. It's simply the way you think. If you can readjust that thinking and believe that, yes, in this film industry, in this social industry, in this educational industry, whatever, I'm going to be at the highest level, and then you start walking the talk. It's just a matter of short time. And let me tell you something, the top is scanty. The top is so scanty that the people at the top are hoping for more people to come and join. It's so scanty. People are lonely. That's why you see this guy say he's lonely at the top. He's actually lonely at the top. He's really, really lonely at the top. He's lonely. He's lonely. Because there are a lot of people at the periphery of life, eating from under the table. Eating from under the table. I'm not talking about pride. I'm talking about self-confidence. You're not small. You're not small. The circumstances of your birth is not important. What was my own? Whether it's inside wedlock or out of wedlock or before wedlock or on top of wedlock or under wedlock, it's not my business. I've come is that I've come. It's market. I don't come beside I don't come. Let's grind it. There are certain things. You see, God does not say, oh, because you were born out of wedlock, that which he has put into you, he will not know now. And you know the funny thing. See, God has put everything inside you. And if you know the capacity, you have, if you have a clue of the capacity you have, that you have not been using to bring glory to God, to help mankind, to make the world that you met a better place. If you know the capacity at your disposal, you'll be shocked. You will have a lot of regrets. A whole lot of regret for not doing something. So before God does to you what he did to the children of Israel by wiping an entire generation, you need to sit up. You need to sit up. If you need to be writing it, write it around your heart. I am not a small person. I'm going to operate at the top echelon of society. Remember the parable of the talents. The master gave talents. The multiplication of the talent was dependent on the mentality of the servants. The one that had a victim mentality could not produce anything. It could not multiply anything. I'm a victim. I don't care. I go through all nations of the world. It's not my business. And we sit down and talk. One day, one guy looked at me and said, you don't behave like a Nigerian. I said, really? I asked him, how do Nigerians behave? Because you think you expect me to come. I live in a cave. I'm coming from a cave. Am I saying we should go about bragging? No. But you cannot have a conversation with me as if I'm less of myself. So it will not happen. Many years ago, maybe yes. But now, no. It can't. You can't just throw me under the bus. No, you can't. You can't throw me under the bus. You can't. If we're going to have a discussion, we have to have the discussion, everybody respecting each other. We need to have the discussion, Everybody respecting each other. If we're going to have a discussion and you don't respect my viewpoint, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. So guys, I want you to, you see, I know, I understand. You've been brought up in, people have said a lot of things about you. People have told you, you're a dull person. You're not agile. You are not this one. You're not that one. All those things, all those narratives, throw it to the garbage. If it's not consistent with what God has said, move on. If it is not consistent, and it's not consistent, it's not. It can never be consistent that you're a dull person. It can never be consistent that you're not smart. Some of us have even exonerated, I'm not a business person. What do you mean by that? I'm not a business person. I'm not a career person. I'm not a distinct person. You've adjusted and accepted the limitations that society has put on you, that culture has put on you, that indoctrinations have put on you, and doctrines have put on you. I'm not this type of person. I'm a shy person. I'm a this. Who said? Delete all those things. They are very, very important. And Satan understands how to play this game. When you're still a tabula rasa, he starts writing things that are not consistent with your future. So sometimes when you cast him out, he's out, but his program is still running. You are the best thing in life. You're not small. Stop if you find yourself in an environment, no matter the kind of environment it is, whether it is religious, whether it's educational, no matter that, by the time you come out of it, you feel down, you feel that you've not really, there is a lot in you that has not been expressed. I beg you in the name of the Lord, change. Respectfully ask for permission from whoever it is that is leading that organization. If it is in your workplace, I beg you, kindly look for another job. You don't need anything to ground you any further. Upbringing has done enough. Environment is doing too much. What you need is to start changing that environment, changing those conditions that produce those things. And you need to start doing it very fast because we don't have time. We don't have time. Yes, we're talking about apprenticeship, we're talking about business, we're talking about leading companies and all. But if the mentality is wrong, if the mentality is wrong, you can't do much. If the mentality is wrong, you can't do much. You can't do much. Can't do too much. So please stop making excuses for not starting life. Stop making excuses for not kicking off. Stop making excuses for not going for the best. Sometimes I see people who say, this is the number one tailor in Lagos. I see some of the things that the person sew. I see some of the jobs that the person does. I know my guys in Aba. I know my guys in certain places in Omaya that can do a far better job. But because of their mentality, the people that are not even doing so much are the ones running the show. The people that have things to offer, they are hiding. They are saying that their time is not yet. Their season is not yet. Oh, it's the season of the people that are not even as competent as you are? Is that what you're saying? Tell yourself the truth. Come out of that box. You can't light up a light and put it under the bushel. Come out. Some of you, can't you see? Those ideas that you nurtured many years ago, other people are engaging it and expressing it. Now you are now starting up as second number 2. Why was your idea? You had the idea even before people thought about it. I don't know if it happens to you. Something that somebody starts today and the person is being celebrated everywhere. You now start feeling that, I used to know this thing now 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago. But you did not start. You did not do anything about it. Somebody else picked the idea from the frequency of ideas and started running with it because of the person's mentality and the winning mentality. Today, the person is doing great. And you are busy saying, I know this thing. I know this thing. You wanted to launch that real estate company. You finish all the talk. Today, real estate has gone. And you know the thing about this life. For those of you quoting times and seasons, listen to me. Maybe the times and seasons you should even be paying attention to is that there's a time you really want to do that thing and you realize that it's too late, that the season has passed. Not even times and season for you as a person, but in terms of the calendar of God and how things move very fast. Maybe you should be paying attention that there is a time and season for you to engage and initiate those things that God has put inside you. Else, when you want to bring it out to the world, it might be an obsolete idea. Maybe we'll have passed that stage and you're speaking grammar. So please and please and please, wake up. You don't have time. You don't have time. Wake up. Wake up. You can't be a giant and you're playing at the periphery of the periphery. That's not where giants play. Like I said, I don't care what your circumstances are. If the mentality is right, the circumstances will align. If the mentality, if it can be corrected, the circumstances will adjust accordingly. That is how it works. This is the same guy that whenever once he has to do with education, nobody even they send me self. Once he has to do with success in business, like nobody was expecting anything. But then, man, you have to go it alone. And guess what? People will align afterwards. People will align afterwards. First of all, they are suspicious because they don't understand what is going on. But over time, when they realize that, man, this is something new, this is totally different, they will align. My point is that you are not small. You are not an afterthought. There is nothing, no matter how you were given birth to, it wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a mistake. Some persons, their problem is that they are the last born. They believe that their parents made a mistake. They were not supposed to be giving birth to. They've already finished family planning before they gave birth to them. If you see how just this thinking, how it affects people's life. Just this thinking, we'll finish family planning before we give birth to you. It now makes you think that, you just in your decision making, you just be seeing yourself as somebody that when everybody finish taking from the pot of soup, that's when you come and collect. When I compete with people in business or in anything in life, part of what I'm paying attention to is not even the capital they are bringing to the table. I'm asking myself, what is this person's mentality? There are people, their mentality fear me by far. In fact, if the mentality is correct and right, I fear you more than the money you're bringing to the table. I'm not so much afraid of the money you're bringing to the table. I'm much more concerned about your thinking. Because if the person is sophisticated, you're going to struggle competing with that kind of person. You see somebody that has a sophisticated and tough mentality, it's extremely difficult to compete with that person. Very, very difficult. It's something you wouldn't even want to do. Because almost you would likely not stand a chance. The mentality of a man is much more important than the current money in his pocket. Because you see, his mentality can bring him as much money as possible. As much, a lot of money. Can bring him a lot of money. So be ye transformed by what? The renewing of your mind. The renewing of your mind. Fight that battle and win. Oh. I'm telling you. You see that battle? Fight it and win. Win that battle. The challenge is that I cannot carry my mind and give to you. You have to do the work. Engage in books. Speak to yourself. Speak to yourself. Engage study. Engage books. Engage books. Engage the scriptures. Those part of the scriptures that make you just grounded. Grounded for what? There are part of scriptures that ignite you. There are thoughts that God knows. There are thoughts that God thinks towards you to bring you to an expected end. Thoughts of good, not of evil. Some people, when you start going through things, you believe that you deserve it. You deserve to struggle. You deserve to grow through life. You deserve, what thing happen? Come out of that thing. It's a web. It keeps you grounded. Come out of it. I am the best of the best. That's the mentality we operate. And like I said, when you start this thing, you just realize that there are a vast, when you come out and see people moving from left to right, not knowing what to do, just realize that you just be pitying people. Like, what kind of thing is going on? So this person does not know that he can be better than this. You need to believe in yourself. Believe in this human being that God created. Believe in yourself. It is God that created you. Ye are gods. Ye are gods. You can't die like a mere man. Every time and season, time and season. I know time and season, my friend. You can't die like, just die like nothing. So guys, thank you very much for listening. Please and please and please, please and please and please, come out of it. Come out. Come out of it. You are not small. You are not a small person. You're not a small person. We'll see you guys next week. Next week is most likely going to be live. Will give us an opportunity to but if it's not going to be live, I will tell you. I'll check my flight schedule and also give you feedback. If it's going to be live, I will let you know. I wish it's going to be live so that we can ask questions. I need us to talk about this particular topic I just shared with you, talk to you about, and I need action points. Action points, very important. All right, have a wonderful day. Have a great week. Bye.